Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the jar. Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was unplugged for a second. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Mental Health Today, podcast really all about people and companies that are in the mental health space or people on the journey, maybe telling their story about their mental health story, and innovators and just different angles and different views on what's going on in the mental health space. And I think one of the interesting things about this is that it's not just we're talking about therapy. I mean, mental health, and I immediately picture a leather couch, a leather sofa, a therapist, and somebody laying down and having a chat. And that's what I grew up with, and that will never erase out of my head. It's the first image I see when I hear mental health, and the explosion of what the definition is and how we look at what mental health is now in the last, I don't know how it's going over the last few years. But certainly one of the interesting places it gets to is your body and your physical health and the parts around, how that contributes to your mental health, the chemistry. And, the brain is pretty complex and there's a lot of body parts connected to it. So we're starting to find out, there's a lot going on. It's not just stories or things that happened, when you were 16. And so, it's kind of, I had one really, a good friend who's been on both shows, my JAR podcast and this show. And he was talking how he has PTSD trauma from medical procedures and dentistry. And so we both had a giggle around that because I had my fair share of metal floating around in my life, in my mouth, I should say, over the most of my life. Thankfully, all of it's out. But you start realizing that there's a lot going on in the oral part, right, in the mouth. And our next guest, Dr. Tim Doolin, he messaged me to have a chat around dentistry and health, and just kind of expand connections on LinkedIn. And I thought, oh man, you said the right words. Let's get on a podcast and talk about the correlation, the relationship between dental health and mental health. And so, doctor, let's get started. I don't want to hold the show up. I kind of talked earlier and said, I imagined, when you were young. Yeah.
My son just walked in the door. Let me put him back in his room.
That's
Sorry.
okay. If you want to join, that's okay too. We're a family show. So Dr. Tim and I were talking offline, and I was kind of remarking and joking with him that, he likely, as a wide-eyed boy going into dental school, anticipated and had a vision of, I'm just telling the backstory, Tim. And
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. This is this normal life, man. This is a real life now. And going into dental school and envisioning what the practice would be like that you'd work in, and what your day would be like, and the kind of conversations you'd have, and you'd be doing good work. But would you make these kind of connections, and could you impact people's lives beyond just dentistry, making some other kind of connections? And so I was kind of asking, we were going down that road, and you said, well, yeah, I got a story. I have a patient once. Welcome to the show, Doctor. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. So dental school for me, it was all about learning as much as possible. I am in a very rural area, and so because of that, I knew that I would have to know how to do everything.
Yes.
I wasn't focused as much on trying to learn outside of dentistry and learning kind of the nuances and the newer things that we're learning about dentistry. I wasn't as interested in the history either. And so I had a patient walk into my practice 2 years into me working, And he came up to me and said, I cannot breathe. And I just read this book called Breath. It was written by James Nestor. And he told me that there's all these dental appliances that can be used to allow you to breathe again. And our bodies are being destroyed by breathing. And there's so many great things that we can connect to breathing and what we can learn from all of that. Then what I got into was I started going down a rabbit hole from Breath. I read all of James Nestor, or sorry, not James Nestor, Weston Price's information. Weston Price studied the human development in the 1940s and how the skull develops. Then
Okay.
From there, Weston Price's information was taken by a woman named Sally Fallon, and she wrote books on the ideal diet for the human. And I started following this whole rabbit hole to appliances that would fix all of the issues that humans now have because our diets are destroyed.
Yeah.
And then because our diets are destroyed, our breathing's destroyed. Because breathing's destroyed, everything chemically in our body is thrown off. And it starts from a very early age. And so
that's wild.
Quickly after getting into getting down all of this, I started working with Dr. Belfour out of Manhattan. He invented a device called the HomeoBlock. The HomeoBlock was invented as an aesthetic device, and he was able to start using it to restore people's faces naturally and restore the function of everything naturally. The problem that I had with that was I couldn't use it on children. And the biggest issue that we find is the lack of breathing that is going on in our children in today's society. We're finding that ADD, ADHD, we're finding a lot of depression, we're finding even autistic symptoms are all associated with issues with how we breathe.
Wow, interesting.
And the fact that we really aren't breathing. I mean, kids now it's amazing how many kids actually have sleep apnea. And no child should have sleep apnea. We should.
That's crazy.
It is. And we should develop with none of these issues. And because they aren't sleeping properly, their chemicals are going way out. And then they have ADD, ADHD. The other issue is mouth breathing. So most of our society nowadays mouth breathes. It's a very normal thing. And well, it shouldn't be normal.
Yes.
Yes. It's something that unfortunately a lot of people have. And in the book Breath, one of the interesting things that sent me down this whole path was the author and a close friend of his that is a scientist out of Sweden. They taped their mouth shut for an entire week, breathed just through their nose, recorded their exact routine, their diet, everything that they did. And then they copied it a couple weeks later and did the same routine with their nose. And so they shut their whole nose. And they compared the difference of breathing through their mouth to their nose. And a lot of the things that they experienced were their vitals changing, their mood changing. They didn't feel as happy, as good as they should feel. And
that's great, right? Really? Like you go, that's when you start going, what's going on?
Absolutely. And so getting in with Dr. Belfour, we started talking about a chemical called nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is the most important chemical that's not talked about in our body. We create it in our sinuses. And when we breathe, through our nose, we create nitric oxide, and then it goes to the rest of the body. Nitric oxide is going to open all of your blood vessels, and it's going to allow the blood and the oxygen to properly flow to everywhere in your body. If oxygen's not flowing to your brain properly, you're going to have a lot of symptoms from it. And that's where my whole thing started. And it's really just gone haywire from there. Because
That's kind of crazy. The one guy, and you read one book, and then you're coming up for air
yeah,
on a
no,
different continent.
yeah, I've become obsessed with it at this point. The problem is I'm still in a very rural area, and I still have to provide care to all my patients. Um,
Sure.
but the reason that I like coming on this stuff isn't because I can make money doing it. It's because I want people to know about this. And
Yes.
unfortunately, it's not being talked about. And that's what really bothers me, is that no one is talking about the fact that we need to change how we breathe. And all of the breathing is associated with how we develop in the first 5 years of life. So it's how long we breastfeed for. It's how long or what type of foods we're eating. Are we eating mushy
Mm.
foods? Are we eating harder to eat foods? Are we teaching our children to eat vegetables very early in life? And not so much because of the fiber of vegetables, but actually because it is hard to chew. And having to work for your food develops your jaw.
Yeah,
The
yeah, to help your jaw, right.
And then it's also when you get into Weston Price's books, he looks at the different tribal people, and all those different tribal people are eating very wild meats. They're eating wild roots, everything. Again, it's hard to eat, but it's digested very specifically by our body, and it's very healthy for us because of that. And so when you look
Mm.
at tribal people, they never have crooked teeth, and they don't even have cavities. They don't have to brush their teeth. They don't have to do anything. It's because they have a perfect diet. Their body functions better. And that's
So
why they don't have a lot of the issues that we have in society now.
yeah, because they're eating what they're supposed to eat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What does
And
that diet look like now? What does that
it,
diet look like?
yeah, so it really
I mean, I'm
depends.
guessing it's not Doritos. It's not Doritos BLT sandwich flavor.
So at the root of it, the two worst things for you are processed sugar and processed flour. Those are
Yeah.
at the root of it the worst things. Now you can get farther into it, and they even have diets that are based on genetics. So
Mm.
they can figure out that your family is from this region because you are your genes go back to this type of tribal people. So mine would be Celtic. Going
Okay.
back to Celtic people, lamb would be really,
I'm so sorry. Lamb and haggis.
yeah. It shouldn't be really haggis. Haggis would be something that's too soft for the body. But
Yeah,
lamb,
yeah.
a really big one that isn't talked about is fermented fruits and vegetables
Yes, yeah, yeah.
are very healthy for the body. And that's
Yeah.
where what Sally Fallon did was Sally Fallon took her all the research that was done over the last century and wrote books breaking down exactly what the ideal diet for the human should be, talking about more hard to eat meats, wild meats.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
in my household, we kill an elk every year, and we go fishing weekly, and that is a lot of our food. And then fortunately we live in a rural area, so we have a sheep farmer and a cow farmer in the area that we buy a full sheep from and a quarter cow from yearly. So we have awesome meat, but
That's great stuff there.
not everyone has that ability, and that's what's
Yep.
really difficult.
Yeah.
And as we've started to modernize things, we need to be aware of where food is really coming from and what's in our food. I come from a background of very Western medicine. My mother was a natural pharmacist. And so she worked at a pharmacy, but it was a very natural based pharmacy. So
Okay.
for allergies, for example, they would give you a spray of all of the local allergens to make you more immune to those allergens over time. And things like that is what I grew up with, but I resented it because me and my mom never quite got along, and I moved away from it.
That's such a great story. Have you come back around now?
Yeah, unfortunately. Fortunately and unfortunately. Yeah.
Was she
So
great? Was she graceful in your homecoming?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, now she loves the fact that that's all I talk about is, this is
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
need to do. And I was just in Alaska recently, and I bought her a
Oh,
bunch of wild blueberry bushes or plants,
okay.
and so she could put them in her yard. She lives in Southern California, so everything grows well. And yeah,
Oh, that's a classic. That's a classic story right there. Just the mom and son part.
yeah,
Well, you've got, I mean, good news is you've got a good background. You got a good training, right? It was there. You saw it as a kid. You probably, the imprinting, you probably don't even realize how
yeah,
imprinted it is. You've got a lot to draw on, as far as,
absolutely.
yeah.
But so
Um,
for me, and
yeah.
part of why this bothered me so much was I was very athletic growing up. I liked participating in pretty much every sport, and I wanted to be in everything.
Mm,
Um, in high school, I was in 4 different sports.
okay.
Um, and going into college, I gave up sports because I had a full ride for academics. Um, but it was really that I couldn't breathe anymore. And I got to a point where I couldn't do the cardio. And so when I got into all this, I found out I was a mouth breather. I'm a chronic mouth breather. And because of that, when I get into intensive cardio, I can't keep up the way that I should be able to. The way that my muscles will happily do it, I can't breathe for it. I do
It's
live at
amazing.
85. I live at 8,500 feet elevation, but I still should be able to after adapting to it, for a few years.
Yeah.
And it was really disappointing and difficult for me to kind of give up a lot of sports. And now I golf, fish, and hunt. So things have changed pretty significantly.
Yeah, that's a different animal. Well, at least I think you're active, right? I mean, sports, you transition a little bit, right? You get older, also time and what you're going to do with if you have kids and your
Yeah.
family, how much time can you dedicate it to, you can't be a marathon runner, or you could be a marathon, but maybe like a triathlon would be kind of hard to do with a family
Yeah.
without a lot of personal sacrifice, especially also with the dentist in the
Yeah.
practice. What,
Yeah.
what part of the country are you in?
So I'm in northern New Mexico, Angel Fire.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's so we are about 45 minutes from Taos. That would be the more commonly known place. We're 2 hours north of Santa Fe, 3.5 hours south of Colorado Springs.
Okay, I'm just looking on my travel guide, because I'm in Kansas now and I'm slowly making my
Okay.
way. So I'm just checking to see if you're in my. I know I'm close. That I know for
Yeah.
sure. Um,
So we're a
so
big
yeah, so tell us,
vacation
yeah,
area.
you're big, yeah. Tell us about the blocker. The you were talking about the thing to help with
Homeopathy.
mouth breathing. This because I heard Joe. I hate to say get Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan has
Yep.
advertised those mouth rings where you
Yep.
chew, and it's like basically just a jaw exerciser, and you just
Yes.
chew it and chew it. Anyway,
Yes.
so what have you got? What is that?
So yeah, there's a few different things. Depending on the severity of things, when I sit down with a patient, we've tried to figure out exactly how severe your case might be. The ideal one that I like using is the Homeo Block for an adult. The Homeo
Okay.
Block is a natural way to promote facial development while you're sleeping. So every time you swallow, you push on your Homeo Block, and it's a retainer basically that sits at the roof of your mouth. When you push on it, there's little springs that touch the back of each tooth. Those springs will activate the teeth and tell them that they need to move. And we see
To open it up.
yeah. So we will see natural growth and development of your face as this continues to happen. So
Mm.
every month or whenever we decide, you will adjust the Homeo Block and we'll make sure that it's still fitting, and it'll continue to do that until over the course of 2 years, we've actually redeveloped your face and given
Wow.
you given you proper space. The biggest difficulty I have with it is it's a natural process. And so because of that, it's extremely unpredictable. We don't know how it's going to affect
Mm.
everyone. Um, but usually it's incredible. Usually the benefits are amazing for people. And I have people coming back often. Um, I'd say I see probably 5 homeoblock patients a week, and
Okay.
they are all saying that this has happened, that's happened. Whether my patient yesterday was telling me how she no longer has migraines and her migraines have completely disappeared because of that. And that's where this all gets into the mental health aspect, is when your
Yes.
migraines are gone, oh my gosh,
Oh,
the
oh,
changes in your life. Because for her, it was a daily thing. And her issue was her jaw development, and her jaw didn't fit into the skull properly. And so as we have changed everything, it started to rest better, and she's starting to feel
whoa.
the difference of that on the muscles, so they are no longer tense against the skull.
Ah, that's what's happening. It's the actual tension. Yeah.
Yeah.
The alignment.
Yeah, and it's
Yep.
different for every person,
Yeah, sure,
what
sure,
might be
sure.
causing different things. And that's why for me, it's so cool, is to take a 3D x-ray and figure out on someone, here's all the things that I can help you with. Here's all the ways I can help you.
Yeah.
And it's up to you on your commitment of what you would like to see done.
Yeah, and I think the natural way, like you said, I think the other thing that's tough about that, it's very slow, or it would seem slow, I think, for a patient, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's I got to add this into my lifestyle, and
Yep.
90 days later, the body's maybe just starting to go, okay, I guess this is permanent. Maybe we should start to react. Right up until then, the body's like, maybe this will just go away if I wait long enough. Right?
Absolutely. Everyone
Yeah.
is different with it. And that's what's so difficult as the dentist. I'll have a patient who just spent thousands of dollars on this treatment, and they're coming back a month later like nothing's happened.
Yeah.
Why am I spending this money? Fortunately, after 6 months, I've never had
Yes.
someone coming back saying nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Um, but it's that first few months that's really difficult. And some people, they don't want to follow through. They just decide that it is not for them. And that's the hardest thing for me, is I can see what's going on,
Yeah.
and that there is a solution to it, and they just aren't interested in dedicating themselves to fixing it.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. That's got to be tough. So it's interesting because I look at one of the things that I've always looked at and I've wondered about are the people are putting these mouth devices on to breathe at night, to
Yeah.
sleep at night,
Yeah.
and just like I just look at that and I'm like, holy cow, man! I don't know what I would do if that was me and I had to do that. I
You
just
know,
don't know what the kind of despair that would be going to bed. I wouldn't even want to go to sleep, or I'd sleep 4 hours and I'd get up.
so fortunately, it has evolved a lot, and it's gotten better. CPAPs are still the one of the main ways that we treat any sleep apnea. The
Okay.
reason why is because it's a guaranteed result. Uh, if if someone is not tolerant of a CPAP, then we will start considering other options for them.
Okay.
But like the homeoblock, as much as that helps with sleep, it is not a sleep device.
Yeah, yeah, it's not okay.
And I
It's not gonna fix sleep apnea.
and sometimes
Or yeah, maybe okay.
we do see significant results with it, but we cannot advertise it as a
Yeah,
sleep appliance.
yeah.
There are sleep appliances that I use, so that is another thing, because with sleep apnea, if you are an adult suffering from sleep apnea, it is going to cause you severe issues everywhere in your life.
Man.
And most of the patients who are put on CPAPs, and when we diagnose it and tell them you need to go get a CPAP, they come back to us singing praises, because they sleep so much better throughout the night.
Okay, then yeah, maybe it is a beauty, like, it's not an I guess
It
when you're not sleeping, I guess anything that helps you is a miracle.
Absolutely, it's a desperation. And it's not even, for most of those patients, it's not that they aren't sleeping. consciously. They think that
Yes.
they are
Yeah.
asleep,
They think they're sleeping. Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
wake up tired. Their partner tells them sometimes that they stop breathing throughout the night. I mean, I have a patient who they stop breathing 200 times a minute. It is that bad. And
They say it's like drowning, right? It feels like you're like people that
yeah,
describe it. That sometimes they wake up in a dream and
yeah,
they thought they were drowning,
yeah. And
and
it's
it's not a dream. You're actually
it's
drowning.
yeah, no, we're finding that it is a huge cause of death in America. And it's not something that we've really ever talked about or diagnosed as a significant cause of death, because we can't guarantee it. Basically, the person just stops breathing, and it's going to cause your whole body to shut
Yeah,
down.
cause of death would just be the natural causes, right? It would look like just
I,
natural causes.
I'm not sure how they had diagnosed it forever, but it's something that was not truly recognized as a
Yeah,
standard cause of death.
yeah.
Um, and so it's extremely unfortunate. Now it's becoming more and more prevalent. Now we see commercials about it on TV. We see they've invented quite a few appliances for it. They've invented
Mhm.
different solutions to it, which are awesome. But yeah, anytime I see anyone who might have sleep apnea, it's something that we bring up right away, because the reality is that's going to affect everything in your body.
Yeah,
And
very dangerous.
when we're talking about mental health, any patient that brings up mental health to me, or checks it on their
Mm.
patient intake
Yeah, the
form,
form.
I want to figure out what might be going on chemically in their body to make them have this issue. Yes,
Interesting.
PTSD is one thing, but to be suffering from a mental disorder that doesn't have a true underlying cause, I want to find that cause.
Is it chemical? What is it?
Yeah,
It's interesting. What are you thinking about next? What are you working on now? I'm just looking at the time. Maybe we got time for maybe some thoughts on what are you thinking about now? What's your new rabbit hole? Or
yeah,
are you digging out of the other one? And then maybe some thoughts and some ideas how people can find you and stay in touch and get into your network.
yeah. So, the next thing I would like to see, and I don't know if it's going to be me that starts it or someone else, I want to see truly integrative healthcare, where someone
You and me
comes.
both, my brother.
Yeah, someone. So I want to, my absolute ideal, my dream is I want to build a clinic that is someone walks in, it looks like a spa, and it has no resemblance of a medical dental facility. And you are taken to a room where you are basically given a tour of your body. And that's how I want it to be described is we'll still have to take blood. We'll still have to do images and all of that stuff so that we can properly assess things. But I want to get a group of doctors together where we can properly give patients
Mm.
tours of their body so they know every possible thing that we can find, to show them what might be going on and what might be wrong. There, I just I don't find it acceptable the way that healthcare is run right now. Um,
I agree.
you know,
Agree with that.
dentistry, and many times we treat it just like going to our mechanic. And we feel like we're going to the mechanic. You're getting the oil change, and all of a sudden I've got this need to be fixed.
It's
And
true. It's really true.
I came from a very difficult situation dental wise. I went to a lot of bad dentists growing up because unfortunately my parents couldn't afford otherwise. And, you know, it really kills me when I have a child come in who's just been traumatized by some other dentist. And I think the
Oh,
experience can be entirely different. When a child comes into my office, one of the first things they know is I almost never will use a shot or a drill on a child. There is no reason to use those in standard practice on children. There are so many alternatives now that a dentist should be trained in. They are common practice, all over the world. And we can easily change how all of this healthcare, how everything is provided. So that's really my next
The next,
5 year. Yeah, I
I
really want to see something change.
I love that. The one thing the one thing that I have picked up is in this short time, kind of talking to people like, in this space, is how much of the physical health and the other things that we see, the manifestations of symptoms of
Yeah,
underlying causes. And
yeah,
I love how you've touched on that today in your pursuit to find help for somebody. I can't breathe, and all right, what's going on? And you start getting down to root cause.
yeah,
And I think this is, it would be so much better if the medical side of it was also fully understanding the whole picture. I think doctors also operate, with the data they've got, but they don't know the dental health side, right? They don't know the dental history. If you got a practice where that's part of your history, you should be known. You should know what's going on in someone's the history of the dental side. Um, and then
but
the mental
it's
health.
all, and then it's just all linked,
It's
for
all
us,
linked.
to disconnect everything the way that we do.
Yes, yeah. That's what it
It's
is. This is a perfect description. Actually, what we've done is we've broken out a person's health and broke it into little vertical businesses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate because for medicine, a lot of it is due to insurance, it's due to pharmacies. um and I don't know how that's going to change. How are we going to be able to compensate a doctor the same way? Because it's going to cost more money
yeah.
unless we get rid of insurance and start investing in other places. um and that's where I've, with multiple partners that I've talked to, it is, we always hit a dead end. Is how do we collect for just straight knowledge, for teaching someone about
Hmm.
things instead of prescribing them this medicine or that medicine. There's not really a code to on.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's different. This is, yeah. The insurance side is really brutal, and you got legislation in there, and then you've got trial attorneys are right around the corner when anybody makes a mistake.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's brutal. How do people? I mean, we've got the website up, angelfirefamilydentistry.com.
yeah.
Are you doing any speaking anywhere else or any plans?
You know, I haven't started really doing too much in terms of speaking. It's been a few podcasts here and there. I'm wanting, I guess, to get into more. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make $1 million doing this. I'm trying to get the word out that things can be done differently. Um, I love talking to people. So if someone does have questions, they can always email me. It's best email is just my office email, which is angelfiredental@gmail. Uh, Anyone's welcome to ask questions for me,
Yeah.
and we
It's
go from
great.
there.
Super. Well, get you started on your own podcast. I think it's probably the next step. I imagine,
I
man.
don't
Every,
I don't think I
everybody
have the
loves.
time for that.
Yeah, everybody would love to get you on the call. Dr. Ren, thanks so much for being a guest, taking your time out and sharing your passion. This is really cool, and I love anybody that's willing to go down a rabbit hole. You're my kind of people. Um,
And if you don't
thanks again.
mind,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
like to give just one piece of advice to
yes.
anyone that is suffering with anything.
Mm,
There are two really quick solutions. I make zero money on either of them. Okay.
okay,
One of them is the Relaxator by Anders Olsen. He invented this device it's a one-way valve to help you breathe better. So basically, it's a forced exhale breathing.
okay.
When you have to force air out,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it's going to promote widening of the airway, and then you have to breathe through your nose with it. The other thing that I would recommend to every person, and it's something that's becoming significantly more common, is mouth tape. We should be
Yeah.
taping our mouths shut at night. If you are snoring in any way, if you are doing anything like that, you should talk to a doctor about taping your mouth shut. I know it
So
sounds
cool.
absolutely crazy, but what it does is it starts stimulating that pathway of breathing through our nose, and the nose is a use it or lose it. The more you use it, the better it's going to start working again. And so it's just take a strip of, go get any medical tape. I like using the clear or the brown medical tape, and just one strip from top of the lip, bottom, and keep it shut.
I'm going to try it tonight.
Okay.
It's just what the name of the first one. Maybe make sure shoot me that in an email later or something, or
Yeah.
put it in the chat so I can grab that and make sure it's in the podcast notes.
Yeah. So it's called the Relaxator.
The Relaxator.
I'm trying to remember the name of his company. It's oh man. There, I can.
We can do it
Google
later.
It real quick.
Send it to me.
Yeah.
Send it to me later.
Another one that is incredible that I just was invented is the remastered sleep straw.
Sleep straw. Okay.
So basically what it does is it teaches you to suckle again. When you start doing that with your tongue, you have to drink with it a very specific way. It will promote widening of the face again. And it'll get the tongue forward in a very healthy place so that you start breathing better.
Oh, as opposed to in the back for a mouth breather.
Yep.
Genius.
So super cheap things that people can do right away at home. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on appliances, as much as I would love to make you one.
Yeah. Well, you should make sure you get these up on the website. Get a little store up on the website. A little hot link.
Yeah.
A little hot link. Again, Dr. Tim, thanks, man, a bunch. I got a little quick commercial, and then I'll see you on the other side. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the show today. Mental Health Today, really sponsored by the JAR Foundation. And come find us on either YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. Find the JAR podcast and follow us there as well and see that journey. Thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, loose, baby.
We're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're gonna go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.